Jenna gripped the first-class armrest, her knuckles turning white. An entitled passenger, Karen, loomed over her, screeching about the seat that was rightfully Jenna's. But Jenna held her ground, unwilling to submit to Karen's bullying. Little did Karen know, Jenna had a secret that was about to turn the tables in the most unexpected way. Jenna sank into the plush leather seat, her weary body grateful for the comfort. After a grueling work trip, she couldn't wait to kick back and enjoy the perks of her hard-earned first-class ticket. But the tranquility was shattered the moment a shadow fell over her. "Excuse me, I believe you're in my seat," a shrill voice demanded. Jenna looked up to see an impeccably dressed woman, her designer handbag dangling from her arm like a trophy. "I'm sorry, but this is my seat," Jenna replied calmly. No. This is seat 2A, and that is my ticket," the woman insisted, waving the boarding pass in Jenna's face. Jenna checked her own ticket, and sure enough, it clearly read 2A. Panic flashed through her. Had she made a mistake? She racked her brain, retracing her steps, but she knew she had double-checked her ticket before boarding. There must be some misunderstanding. "I'm quite certain this is my assigned seat," Jenna said, her voice wavering. "Misunderstanding? Are you blind?" the woman sneered. "Get up and give me my seat, or I'll have the flight attendant deal with you." Jenna's heart pounded as the other passengers in the cabin turned to witness the confrontation. She could feel their judging eyes burning into her, waiting to see how she would react. "Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but this is my seat. Perhaps there's been a mix-up at the check-in counter. If you'd like, I can ask the flight attendant to sort this out," Jenna offered, her tone conciliatory. "Sort it out? I don't have time for that. This is unacceptable. I paid for first class, and I expect to be treated accordingly," the woman snapped, her face flushing with anger. Jenna braced herself as the woman's volume escalated, drawing the attention of the cabin crew. She could feel the tension building, and she knew she had to find a way to diffuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. A flight attendant hurried over, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes, there is a problem," the woman exclaimed. This person is sitting in my seat, and she refuses to move." The flight attendant turned to Jenna, her expression neutral. "Ma'am, is there an issue with your seat assignment?" Jenna took a deep breath, trying to keep her composure. "I'm terribly sorry, but I believe there's been a mistake. This is the seat I was assigned, and I've double-checked my ticket." The woman cut in, her voice dripping with disdain. "Well, your ticket must be wrong, because this is clearly my seat. I demand that you move immediately, or I'll have you removed from this flight." Jenna felt her face flush with embarrassment as the other passengers whispered and murmured around them. She knew she had to find a diplomatic solution, but the woman's aggressive behavior was making it increasingly difficult. "Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but I assure you this is my assigned seat. Perhaps we can work together to resolve this issue calmly and respectfully," Jenna said, trying to de-escalate the situation. The woman scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Calmly and respectfully. I don't have time for that. I need to be in New York by tonight, and I can't afford to miss my meeting. Now, get up and let me have my seat, or else." Jenna felt her heart sink. She knew she was in the right, but the woman's unwavering demand and the pressure of the other passengers were making it increasingly difficult to stand her ground. As the flight attendant looked on, unsure of how to proceed, Jenna felt the weight of the situation bearing down on her. Jenna's mind raced as she tried to find a solution. She couldn't back down, not when she knew she was in the right. But the woman's aggressive behavior and the growing tension in the cabin were making it increasingly difficult to maintain her composure. As the woman continued to berate her, Jenna suddenly remembered a detail that could turn the tables. She leaned forward, her voice low and measured. "Ma'am, I understand your urgency, but I'm afraid I can't give up this seat. You see, I'm a platinum-level frequent flyer with this airline, and I've earned the right to this first-class ticket through my loyalty and travel history." The woman's eyes widened, and for a moment, Jenna saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face. "What? But I paid for this ticket. That doesn't give you the right to take it from me." Jenna held up her hand, her expression calm but resolute. "I'm not trying to take anything from you. But as a Platinum member, I have certain benefits, including the ability to select my seat in advance. This is the seat I was assigned, and I'm not willing to give it up, especially when I've done nothing wrong." The woman opened her mouth, but Jenna could see the wheels turning in her head. She knew the woman was weighing her options, trying to decide whether to push the issue further or back down. "Look, I don't want to make a scene, and I'm sure you don't either. Perhaps we can speak with the gate agent and see if there's an alternative solution that works for both of us," Jenna suggested, her tone conciliatory. The woman hesitated, her face flushing with frustration. She glanced around the cabin, seemingly aware of the growing tension and the curious eyes watching the exchange. Jenna held her breath, waiting to see what the woman would do next. After a tense moment, the woman finally spoke, her voice laced with reluctance. "Fine. I suppose we can try to sort this out with the gate agent." Jenna let out a silent sigh of relief, grateful that her gambit had paid off. She followed the woman and the flight attendant to the front of the cabin, hoping to find a resolution that would satisfy everyone. At the gate, the agent listened carefully to both sides of the story. Jenna presented her frequent flyer status and the documentation that clearly showed her assigned seat, while the woman insisted that she had purchased the ticket and deserved to be in first class. The agent, a seasoned professional, nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, let me take a closer look at this and see what we can do." Jenna waited anxiously as the agent tapped away at her computer, her brow furrowed in concentration. She could feel the woman's impatient gaze boring into her, and she steeled herself for another confrontation. After a few minutes, the agent looked up, a sympathetic expression on her face. "Ma'am, I'm afraid there's been a mix-up with your seat assignment. It appears that the system registered you in the wrong class of service, and that's why you were assigned a seat that's already been claimed by our Platinum member." The woman's face fell, and Jenna could see the realization dawning on her. "What? But I specifically booked a first-class ticket. How could this have happened?" The agent offered an apologetic smile. "It seems there was a glitch in our booking system. Unfortunately, we don't have any first-class seats available on this flight, but we can certainly upgrade you to business class at no additional cost. Would that be acceptable?" Jenna watched as the woman's shoulders slumped, her bravado seemingly deflated. She knew the woman was reluctant to back down, but the agent's calm and professional demeanor had taken the wind out of her sails. I suppose that will have to do," the woman muttered, shooting Jenna a resentful glare. Jenna couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction as the woman was escorted to her new seat. She had stood her ground, and the truth had ultimately prevailed. As the woman sulked in her business class seat, Jenna settled back into her rightful place in first class, her heart still pounding from the confrontation. She couldn't believe the nerve of that woman, who had brazenly tried to steal her seat. But as the initial adrenaline rush wore off, Jenna found herself reflecting on the incident with a growing sense of unease. Something about the woman's behavior had struck a chord within her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. Jenna thought back to the woman's outburst, the way she had demanded the seat so aggressively, as if her very livelihood depended on it. Perhaps there was a deeper reason behind her desperation, a context that Jenna had overlooked in the heat of the moment. Unbidden, a memory surfaced in Jenna's mind. A time years ago when she had been in a similar situation, facing her own personal crisis and lashing out at those around her. She had been so consumed by her own troubles that she had lost sight of the humanity in others, treating them with the same callousness that she now condemned in the woman. Jenna felt a twinge of guilt as she realized the parallels between their situations. Who was she to judge the woman's actions when she had once been in the same position, driven to desperate measures by circumstances beyond her control. With a sigh, Jenna leaned back in her seat, her perspective shifting. Perhaps this wasn't a simple case of entitlement or privilege, but rather a manifestation of a deeper struggle that the woman was facing. And in her rush to assert her own rights, Jenna had failed to consider the woman's perspective, to see her as a fellow human being rather than just an obstacle to be overcome. As the plane climbed higher, Jenna found herself wishing she had handled the situation with more empathy and understanding. She knew that the damage had been done, but she couldn't help but wonder if there was a way to make amends, to reach out to the woman and offer a gesture of goodwill. Jenna waited until the seatbelt sign had been turned off, then carefully made her way to the business class cabin. As she approached the woman's seat, she could see the remnants of the earlier confrontation etched on her face, the furrowed brow, the tight-lipped expression. Jenna took a deep breath and put on her most disarming smile. "Excuse me, ma'am. Do you have a moment?" The woman looked up, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What do you want?" Jenna held up her hands in a gesture of peace. "I just wanted to apologize for the way I handled the situation earlier. I realize now that I may have been a bit too confrontational, and I didn't take the time to understand where you were coming from." The woman's expression softened slightly, but she still remained guarded. "Well, I certainly didn't expect an apology from you. What are you playing at?" Jenna shook her head. "I'm not playing at anything. I genuinely feel that I could have handled things better, and I wanted to make amends. It's clear that this flight has been a stressful experience for you, and I'd like to try to make it a little easier if I can." The woman studied Jenna for a moment, her brow furrowed in contemplation. "And just how do you propose to do that?" Jenna offered a tentative smile. "Well, I was thinking that perhaps I could buy you a drink or a snack, just to help you relax a bit. It's the least I can do after the way I reacted earlier." The woman's eyes widened, and for a moment, Jenna thought she might refuse the offer. But then, to her surprise, the woman's features softened, and she nodded slowly. That would be appreciated. Thank you." Jenna felt a surge of relief and gratitude. She'd have taken a risk in reaching out, but it seemed to have paid off. As she made her way to the galley to retrieve the woman's refreshment, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope that perhaps this encounter could be turned into something positive. Jenna returned with a glass of wine and a small plate of cheese and crackers, setting them down gently on the woman's tray table. The woman looked up at her, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer than before. Jenna nodded, feeling a sense of cautious optimism. "I hope this helps you relax a bit. It's been a long day, and we all have our moments when we're not at our best." The woman took a sip of the wine, her expression thoughtful. "You know, you're right. I've been under a lot of stress lately, and I'm afraid I took it out on you. That wasn't fair." Jenna offered her a sympathetic smile. "I understand. We all have our struggles, and sometimes they can get the better of us. I'm just glad we were able to find a resolution." The woman nodded, her gaze drifting down to the food in front of her. "You know, this is actually my first time flying first class. I've been working so hard to save up for this trip, and I was really looking forward to the experience." Jenna's heart sank as she listened to the woman's admission. "I see. I can only imagine how disappointed you must have felt when you thought you were going to lose your seat." The woman looked up, her eyes shining with a hint of vulnerability. "It's just, I've been working so hard, you know. I'm trying to build a better life for myself, and this trip was supposed to be a reward, a chance to really enjoy the finer things in life. But then all of this happened, and I just felt so." She trailed off, shaking her head, and Jenna felt a pang of empathy. "Powerless." The woman nodded, a rueful smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Exactly. I felt so powerless, and I lashed out. I'm sorry about that, by the way. It was wrong of me to take my frustrations out on you." Jenna reached out and placed a gentle hand on the woman's arm. I understand. We all have our moments, and the important thing is that we learn from them. I'm just glad we were able to find a resolution." The woman's expression softened, and she nodded. "Me too. And thank you, again, for this." She gestured to the food and drink in front of her. Jenna smiled, feeling a sense of relief and connection. "It's the least I could do. I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip." As Jenna turned to head back to her seat, she couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of empathy and understanding. Sometimes, it was easy to judge others based on their actions, but it was important to remember that there was often more to the story than met the eye. As the plane touched down at the destination, Jenna couldn't help but reflect on the events of the flight. What had started as a tense confrontation had ultimately turned into a moment of understanding and connection. She thought back to the woman's vulnerability, the way her frustration had melted into a sense of gratitude and relief. It was a reminder that sometimes the most challenging situations can lead to the greatest insights, if we're willing to approach them with empathy and an open mind. Jenna couldn't help but feel a twinge of pride in herself as well. By taking the time to listen and offer a helping hand, she had been able to turn a potentially ugly situation into something positive. It was a small but meaningful victory, not just for her, but for the humanity that she had managed to preserve in the face of conflict. As Jenna made her way through the terminal, she couldn't help but wonder about the woman's future. Would this experience help her find the strength to continue on her personal journey? Or would the stresses and challenges of life eventually wear her down again? Jenna didn't have the answers, but she knew that she had played a part in making a difference, however small. And in a world that often felt so divided and chaotic, that was a victory worth savoring. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jenna headed towards her next destination, her mind already buzzing with the possibilities of the future. Perhaps this encounter had not only taught her something about the woman, but also about herself, about the power of empathy, understanding, and the ability to turn even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth and connection. In the end, Jenna knew that life was full of ups and downs, moments of triumph and moments of struggle. But by approaching each situation with an open heart and a willingness to see the humanity in others, she believed that she could continue to make a positive impact, one encounter at a time.